The cybersecurity landscape never sleeps. Every minute, thousands of new threats emerge. Millions of attacks are launched and billions of dollars are at stake. But in this constant stream of cyber incidents and updates, what should you actually care about? Well, that's why we're here. This is the Daily Cyber Threat Brief. I'm Dr. Gerald Auger, and these are the top cyber headlines. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the party. Spoiler alert, or for the community, if you're going to be a hashtag longtimer Team SC, if you don't see the, if you don't see the song, if you don't hear the song, the theme song, it means that we've started with less than 2 minutes to go for real go time. So we've got the emergency business continuity daily cyber intro video that you just saw. That's what GRC Mafia people do. They have business continuity. Welcome, everybody, to your Daily Cyber Threat Brief podcast. Today is January 24th. This is episode 799, and I am your host, Dr. Gerald Auger. And over the next hour, me, you, Marcus Kyler, DJ B-Sec behind the glass, Toasty Pops in the Kansas City contingent, Anthony S., Larry Shervington, Brexy, Carrie LeGrot, Kimberly Can Fix It, getting up early on this Friday morning. So many people busting out of the ice and re-emerging as if a bear coming out of hibernation. All of us are going to be shredding the top cybersecurity news stories of the day. I'll be giving my expert opinion and analysis on each of those stories, on what it means to you as a practitioner to drive cyber risk reduction for your business stakeholders, to level yourself up, and to continue to just absolutely dominate at your career. Also, if you're a solo operator, you're going to love it because guess what? Welcome to the party, pal. You are no longer a solo operator. Consider the Simply Cyber community your extended co-workers. We're here to support you, bounce ideas, make sure that you're not the a-hole in the room if you're picking up what I'm putting down. And my friends, if you're looking to break into the industry, you are in for a treat because you are going to be asked in any single job interview, how do you stay current on the industry? And this right here is the absolute slam dunk 777 on the slot machine. Jackpot, the Daily Cyber Threat Brief. We're going to cover all those stories. You're going to be asked about them. Stay current. This is a phenomenal answer. And on top of that, my friends looking to break in, the networking within the Simply Cyber community, the actual person-to-person experiences and relationships are at an all-time high up in this space. So don't be shy. Say hello to the community. If you're a regular, hashtag Team SC. And if you're a first-timer, drop a hashtag first-timer in chat. We do love welcoming our first-timers. Spoiler alert, you will be rained on top of with kindness emojis and a sound effect custom-built just for our hashtag first-timers. Now, I want you to know before we get into the stories that I do not research or prep for any of these stories because, you know, ain't nobody got time for that. First,
straight cash, homie.
Oh, wrong button.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
There it is. Ain't nobody got time for that. Plus, it's just, you know, less authentic, right? No one's like having a conversation at the coffee water cooler and being like, oh, you know, did you know that in 2001 there was an actual similar incident that, you know, you're like, get out of here. So that's what's up. That's what we're doing. Before we get into it, I do want to say really, really quick shout out to, oh my gosh. Yesterday was the Meta CTF for the community, okay? The Meta CTF, I don't have the link to the actual January event, but there was a January event. If someone has it, we can pull it up real quick. I can't pull it up. But I do want to say shout out and congratulations to the 17 members of the Simply Cyber community who participated in the January Meta CTF. With first place honors going again to Reed Hurlburt. Guys, he's got the black badge already. Someone's going to have to unseat this dude. And second place goes to Kamet, and third place goes to Winner 241. So congratulations to all of the individuals who participated in the Meta CTF event yesterday. And I have the email addresses of those three winners, and when I get, I have to leave immediately from here to go to the airport, but as soon as I get a hot second, I will be reaching out to you winners and giving you your prizes. Congratulations. You'll get a $100 Amazon gift card, a $50 Amazon gift card, and a $25 Amazon gift card for your winnings. Now, I just saw coming in hot, James McQuiggan at 35,000 feet, dropping gifted subs. So if you're a recipient of that, first of all, welcome to the squad. Second of all, thank you, James McQuiggan. And third of all, do stay tuned because at the mid-roll today on Fridays, you're actually going to be delighted with a dad joke or two from the very talented James McQuiggan at 35,000 feet. This is what this genuine, kind individual looks like. And not only is he throwing out gifted subs, but he's also making us laugh. So stay tuned that at the mid-roll. Now, before we get all the way up into the news, I got to tell you, this show is not possible. Thank you, Chris Whitlock. So here is the Meta CTF for January. Just so everybody knows, the Meta CTF will be back. We do it every single month. So stay tuned for information on the February one. Shout out, by the way, to community member Poner Joe, who is the POC for the CTF. I know that's a lot of acronyms, but he's the point of contact for the Capture the Flag event for February. So look for communications from him. I will stay for jaw-jacking a little bit today before I have to run. We are going to be doing a panel jaw-jacking, and we have a special guest today, Don Weber, who's an industrial control systems security professional, will be joining the panel, as well as some of the regulars that we see, perhaps BSEC. Fleetus mentioned he might come, maybe Eric Taylor, I don't know. We'll see who shows up. James McQuiggan at 35,000 feet with the squad membership. Greetings from Las Vegas, day 3. I'm heading home to deliver my presentation on AI and deepfakes tomorrow from my friends, Hack Florida, or Hack CFL. Safe travels for all those on the road. Team SC, coffee cup cheers. Let's go full screen for a hot second. Ladies and gentlemen, if you got one, raise it. Coffee cup cheers to you, James McQuiggan. Hashtag Team Sippy Cup. All right. I'm feeling fun. I know we haven't jumped into the stories yet, but it's just we have some announcements to go through, right? CTF winners, James McQuiggan, jokes and stuff. It's all about good times. Ooh, before we get into the stories, before your face gets melted with all the top cyber news of the day, I do want to say shout out and thank you to the stream sponsors who enable me to bring this heat to you every single morning. Starting with ThreatLocker. ThreatLocker providing that zero trust endpoint protection platform. Let's hear from ThreatLocker, and when I come back, I'm going to tell you exactly what you can do to get all your CPEs all the time. Whoa, Jason. First timer from Fall River. Jason, I'm from the South Shore, so I'm very familiar with Fall River. Even got a little Boston coming out in me, sir. Right there. Good morning, and welcome to the party, pal.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Squad members, why ThreatLocker runs. If you could, drop those first-timer emotes for our friend Jason from Fall River.
I want to give some love to the daily cyber threat brief sponsor, ThreatLocker. Do zero-day exploits and supply chain attacks keep you up at night? Worry no more. You can harden your security with ThreatLocker. Worldwide, companies like JetBlue trust ThreatLocker to secure their data and keep their business operations flying high. ThreatLocker takes a deny-by-default approach to cybersecurity and provides a full audit of every action allowed or blocked for risk management and compliance. Onboarding and operation is fully supported by their US-based Cyber Hero support team. Get a free 30-day trial and learn more about how ThreatLocker can help prevent ransomware and ensure compliance. Visit threatlocker.com.
Trying to make a second cup of coffee here. That first cup of coffee was awful. Just so you know, I've got low expectations for the second cup. But you know, when you're on travel, you gotta do what you gotta do. I've been rocking this thing. This is like basically like Starbucks Folgers. You know, it's already crushed powder. I don't have to bring the French press and all that. So please, Mad Destroyer, grant me grace. I understand the sacrifices I'm making here with my my coffee. Guys, every single... No. It's not. It's like, I call it Starbucks Folgers because it's like, it's literally Starbucks, but it's like Folgers where it's like crystal. I don't know. Has anyone tried this stuff? It's not. You know what it is, dude? It's just like this show when I'm in a hotel. Okay, it's not exactly the best, but you know what? It scratches the itch. It gets you what you need. Okay. I'll tell you what. I'd rather eat this than have like hotel coffee. Oh my god, awful. All right, guys. Every single episode of the Daily Cyber Threat Brief, including this one, friends, is worth half a CPE. So go take a screenshot of the chat above us. Say what's up in chat. Hashtag Team SC. James Quiggin's in there. Oyen Demola's in there. Fleetus is obviously in here. What's up, Fleetus? Mona Samuka. Just say what's up in chat. Grab a screenshot. File it away. And once a year, count the number of screenshots, divide by 2. That's how many CPEs you got. It's as simple as that. Super, super easy. I love it. Timer on, first time on chat, no, not new to the community. I'm in Hotlanta. Well, Kareem Latif Muhammad, let me tell you something. I'm also in Atlanta. And judges, Kareem Latif Muhammad says he's a first timer in the chat, though. Does that Kareem, I'm getting nods from the judges off camera.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Welcome to the party, pal. It's one of those days. We do what we want. All right, guys. Say what's up in chat. Obviously, if you're a first-timer, hashtag first-timer. Thank you all so very much. We've got a great show for you lined up. Just right before we launch into the stories, let me say shout out and love to Barricade Cyber Solutions. Now, Barricade Cyber Solutions actually has an emote in the squad tray. So if you're a new squad member and you want to scoop up one of these emotes, holler at it. Barricade Cyber Solutions, did you know that they're dedicated to helping businesses from cyber attacks and recover from the damage done? Eric Taylor is in chat. So he is a multitasking kind of fella because there's no time to wait when ransomware attacks. So Eric Taylor is quick, like he's like a Wild West guy with his hand on the holster. You know what I'm saying? Barricade Cyber, they can help you. I'm serious. Cyber attacks, they suck. They cause massive issues for businesses. They can send dedicated, hardworking business owners into turmoil. But Barricade Cyber Solutions not only knows how to mitigate the damage done by cyber incidents, they know the entire recovery process from coming in, doing an assessment, getting you back on your feet, and getting you all the way back to a known good state. Go to barricadecyber.com. You can see there's multiple ways down here to connect with Eric Taylor. You can call him at this phone number or use this kind of Calendly thing here if you're actively dealing with a ransomware incident or business email compromise. Do not go gentle into that good night. There is help out here for you, and Barricade Cyber can do that. All right, guys. We've got a great show for you. As always, sit back, relax, and let's let the cool sounds of the hot news wash over us in an awesome wave. I'll see you at the mid-roll.
From the CISO series, it's cybersecurity headlines.
Hold on. Dusty Carlisle with squad membership. And then B-Dubs, our very own community member, hashtag Team SC, B-Dubs, who's crushing it and will be our guest on March 6, 2025 on Simply Cyber Firesides with the gifted subs. Thank you very much, B-Dubs.
These are the cybersecurity headlines for Friday, January 24th, 2025. I'm Steve Prentice. TSA Cyber Chief David Pekoski ousted by new administration. Pekoski had been appointed during President Donald Trump's first term and, quote, led the way in issuing cybersecurity directives governing the airline, pipeline, and rail industries, end quote. His 5-year tenure was extended in 2022 by former President Joe Biden, and he was instrumental in the Biden administration's effort to, quote, address cybersecurity failures following the ransomware attack on Colonial Pipeline in 2021, end quote. No mention has yet been made as to the reason for the ouster or who will replace him. CISO's gain.
Okay. God damn. All right, so this story, TSA cyber guy got fired. News at 11. I mean, there's no... All right. We covered this, Tuesday? Tuesday, I think there was a news story, or Wednesday. There was a news story about the entire cybersecurity review board panel was essentially fired by President Trump. And, I said, this isn't like a targeted attack to like undermine cybersecurity. It's a new administration. People want to bring in their own people. You want you to like, apply for the job. You don't just get like this, I've been here forever, so I get to stay here forever. They're introducing basically you got to do the job. Now, what's wild about this is the individual was hired by Trump in his first term, so he's already been in office or in this role for 9 or 10 years or whatever. You don't need to give it an explanation on why you let someone go, especially since I think this is an appointed position. Okay. Getting some production information here. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit. I don't want to spend much time on this because honestly, this doesn't really help us drive cyber risk reduction for our business stakeholders. This guy, Pekoski, I've never heard of this guy, honestly. He attended a bunch of conferences, getting TSA in front of the right people. Like, what does this have to do with, like, TSA cyber? Because honestly, I don't think about cyber when I think about TSA, right? I mean, it's Transportation Security Authority, right, or agency, and they do the pat downs at the airports. Maybe TSA is involved at like Border Patrol with like ports and stuff. I know we actually have people in chat who work with the Ports Authority. I mean, even just in Charleston, the Low Country. But then there's like Houston, Baltimore. We have major port cities in chat. I know we do. So I don't know if TSA is involved with there, but I don't know. When I think of TSA, cyber is just not where I'm thinking. So honestly, I'm just going to skip this story because I don't feel like I'm not going to like just make something up and like throw it at you for the sake of this. The TSA cyber guy got fired. Like, that's the story. I do want to say shout out if we do speed run through these stories because the CISO stories aren't really a good fit for this community right now. DJ BSEC has actually prepared some business continuity planning stories that are much more salient for practitioners who are working in the space. So let's keep going really quick.
In a boardroom traction in influence but still lack soft skills, says Splunk. These facts are mentioned in a report by research company Splunk, now a subsidiary of Cisco. It is based on responses from 500 CISOs or equivalent, as well as 100 board members globally, and is presented as part of its CISO Report 2025. This report says that, quote, 82% of security leaders now report directly to the CEO, up from 47% in 2023. A further 83% said they participate in board meetings somewhat often or most of the time, with many executives reporting, quote, excellent or very good working relationships with the CISO in areas like setting and aligning on strategic cybersecurity goals and communicating progress against milestones, end quote. Some of the areas where skills gaps are perceived to exist are in business acumen, emotional intelligence, and communication. As expected, the two camps also remain distanced with regards to a belief that enough money is or is not being spent on cybersecurity efforts.
Okay. I saw you guys mention the volume. DJ BSEC actually mentioned the volume, and I just goosed it up a little bit. So let me know if that works better for you. Okay, so guys, CISO's getting some more boardroom love. Just so you know, spoiler alert, because you might not see this immediately. B-dubs, Space Tacos, Chris Whitlock. This story says GRC Mafia is getting stronger by the minute. That's what this says. CISOs are GRC all day, every day. CISOs briefing the boardroom or the board of directors is where, action and change happens. And normally, CISOs have to go, in a lot of instances, this is changing, but CISOs would have to go up through CIO for reporting. CIO goes to CEO. CEO has a question about whatever, ransomware threat actors or what happened with this CrowdStrike thing, and it goes down through the CIO and then up, and then, we need funding, we need budget, we need headcount, whatever. And the CISOs through these different layers isn't able to really get the change they want, or the messaging gets muddled through the voice of the CIO, because when a CISO, hold on, now we're going to get into the muck here, all right? Let's get into the hold on, let's get into the real weeds here. When a CISO needs something and it has to go through the CIO needs to represent IT, applications, data, and information security. So now all of a sudden, we, CISOs and InfoSec people, we only get 25% of the pie. And we're like, wait a minute, I need more pie. 25% of the pie is not going to cut it because we got real problems. And, the CIO, it's like, yeah, right? So that's not always working. And boardrooms and board of directors are realizing that InfoSec is, yes, it's a cost center, but it is wildly important, and they need to know more. So this story is saying, statistically speaking, we are seeing a pretty solid uptick in CISOs getting in front of the board. Now, what the story does say here is that they are lacking soft skills. And listen, I got to tell you guys, 100%, because I love the GRC Mafia. And I know that some of you bag on me, and it's like a fun little rib-tickling elbow in the side kind of joke about my diminishing technical skill set, even though I have, computer science degrees and technical PhD and stuff. Like, CISOs are removed from the keyboard. CISOs they come up the tech stack, but when you go from the keyboard to a CISO, like, you're playing in a different game. Like, you could be a wonderful, sword fighter, right? You could be whatever, Jaime Lannister. And then all of a sudden you got to sit at the small table and you're trying to play Game of Thrones with all these witty people. And you're like, oh, Jesus, I suck at this. So this is what this is saying. CISOs, while they have the audience, which is half the battle, they don't have the skills to actually be able to convey, communicate, and speak at the right level, which is where you need to be. So we needed to get in front of the board. Yes, we've mission accomplished there. But now what do you say? You got to have those skills. So I would recommend, if you are on the GRC path, if CISO or director of InfoSec or leader within the information security space is one of your career goals, then you need to be sharpening all of your tools or all of your knives in your Swiss Army knife, right? I guess this is like a weird metaphor, but listen, think of a CISO as like a Swiss Army knife, okay? Yes, you've got the huge blade in there and you're like, yeah, look at this sick blade I got. But guess what? You've got the nail file and you've got the little tweezers and all that other stuff. And yeah, you don't use the tweezers very often, or the little toothpick thing, or the magnifying glass, right? But you have them in there, and every once in a while, you need to pull those things out and use them. And if they're not sharpened, if you're not practiced at using them, you're going to be using the magnifying glass to pry open a beer bottle cap or something stupid, and you're not going to get the effect and the impact that the tool was used for. And in this instance, the CISO being able to convey, meaningful risk to the board in order to get essentially the outcomes that you want, which is usually budget, focus, initiative, et cetera, like that. So TLDR, if you want to go down these paths, make sure you're working on those soft skills. Empathy, empathy would be number one. That's what I would say. And then speaking at the right audience. Boards don't care about 0 days and lead hackers and, whatever. I love myself some John Hammond. John Hammond can take a vulnerability that dropped yesterday and make a really cool video that's super detailed and explains everything. A semi-retired business person sitting on a board who is made their money in coal, they don't give a damn about Move It, Progress, Software's, Clop ransomware attack. They just want to know, is my data going to get stolen? What are you doing about it, right? So these are the soft skills it's talking about. This is a great win. I'm super pumped here. Super pumped for this story. We're slowly winning. We're slowly winning, GRC Mafia.
Cisco fixes vulnerability in meeting management. The company's warning focuses on a new privilege escalation vulnerability in the Cisco meeting management tool that could allow a remote attacker to gain administrator privileges on exposed instances. The vulnerability, which has a CVE number and also has a CVSS score of 9.9, was disclosed by Cisco on Wednesday. The company has since released a fix as Cisco Meeting Management version 3.9.1. The company also says there are no workarounds to address this vulnerability and therefore urges customers to update to this new version.
So I don't know if Cisco has renamed. Just so you guys know, like Cisco bought WebEx like back in like 2013 or 14, right? I don't know if you guys remember that. WebEx used to be its own company, and WebEx used to be like the go-to meeting software. Now Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams has since demolished it, but Cisco purchased WebEx, and they never really renamed it. But this is called meeting management, so I don't know if that's the same thing or not. But the idea here is that a piece of software that, you know, Cisco has, so it's probably got a little bit of a larger deployment, has a zero-day vulnerability that could be exploited. Now, the vulnerability does involve default permissions. So first of all, if you're deploying technology without configuring it, you could be at risk. You also and improper handling of insufficient privileges in the software itself. So we as end users can't do anything about that. They don't do good lack of proper authorization. So essentially when you're doing a REST API call, it doesn't do any validation of who's making the request. It just kind of says, oh, input, let me execute on that, and off it goes. So anybody could exploit it by sending in an API request, which is trivial to do. This is how like webhooks work, basically. And then you get administrator level privileges. Yikes. And there's a patch for that. Okay, there we go. You gotta patch it. Here's the deal. I would argue that this is reasonably important. I don't know if there's an EPSS score for this particular vulnerability. I will tell when I get a second, our very own DJ BSEC, in DJ BSEC, if you could drop a link to your GitHub, DJ BSEC has actually written a script that will calculate the EPSS scores for you. And yesterday, our very good friend DJ BSEC actually built a web front end to it, so you can literally just use like a nice little, you know, web form and type in the EPSS number, and it turns around and it spits it out what you need to know about it. EPSS being the scores around what is the likelihood of this thing being exploited based on current threats, not CVSS scores, which is just like the vulnerability badness. Here we go. So this is it right here. DJ BSEC dropping tools for everybody, and you could see which one is it? DJ BSEC. You're killing me, Smalls. Is it under Python? Yep. So here's, yeah, you can see it right here. Here is the web-based element. Here's the EPSS probability score, and then a Shodan CV EPSS score. I'm going to go ahead and drop this in chat right now. I definitely would encourage, if you're looking for like a fun little Friday project to dink with, definitely look at this EPSS tool that BSEC built. I think you could get it up and running in like less than 10 minutes. And like appreciate it, read through the source code, everything like that, and see what it's doing, and even read about EPSS. Great little tool. Definitely appreciate BSEC doing that. TLDR, I don't know if this is really bad or not. I don't know if the Cisco meeting management software is external facing or not. If it's only internal facing, like it's on a meeting management server, then you're probably okay. If it's cloud-based, this is a problem for Cisco to fix. I don't have enough information. Just if you're running meeting management, be on the lookout. It's got a 0 day. Let's go.
Thanks to today's episode's sponsor, Vanta. Do you know the status of your compliance controls right now? Like, right now? CISOs know that real-time visibility is critical for security, but when it comes to GRC programs, they rely on point-in-time checks. But more than 9,000 companies have continuous visibility into their controls with Vanta. Vanta brings automation to evidence collection across over 35 frameworks like SOC 2 and ISO 27001. They also centralize key workflows like policies access reviews and reporting, and help you get security questionnaires done 5 times faster with AI. Now that's a new way to GRC. Get started at vanta.com/headlines. That is VANTA.com/headlines.
All right, there we go. All right, so I know we got some first-timers in chat. Oh, welcome to the party, pal.
Welcome to the party, pal.
All right, guys, we are straight crushing it. Just as a programming note, Simply Cyber members, I've been trying to sprinkle the ads in periodically in order to kind of like make it as low impact as possible. What I'm going to do today is after the mid-roll, but before I go back to the news, I'm just going to run the 2 remaining ads back to back and just query you guys as a community if that's better, because then you can be like, oh, all right, like I know that this is coming and, you know, whatever, instead of like just jamming them in over and over. Plus, we can get our la-la-la-las on. George Strasburger, is there any GRC software for auditing that you recommend? Yeah. You can check out the CIS RAM tool, SysRAM. Okay, guys, thank you to the stream sponsors, Barricade Cyber, DeleteMe, Antisyphon, and ThreatLocker. These sponsors are going to be with us throughout 2025. They all locked in for the entire year. Big fans of really all of them. I use Flare. I use DeleteMe. I'm very good friends with Barricade Cyber. I use Antisyphon training. ThreatLocker, I'm doing a lot of work with. These are great companies, good businesses, solid products. Thank you very much, stream sponsors. I also want to remind everybody, actually, you know what? We're going to do the Antisyphon read right now instead. I'm sorry, I lied. I made a mistake because this is better than what they're doing. Guys, I want everyone to know Antisyphon training is basically killing it as far as offering high-end, valuable cybersecurity education at a discount of the price. And I want you to know that next week, so there's still time. Today is January 24th. There is still time for January 27th, next week, for you to take advantage of John Strand's SOC core skills. You could take this 16-hour, 4-day class for $0 and learn from John Strand himself. This is an amazing beginner level class, so it doesn't have any prerequisites. You can take it if you're interested in learning more about cybersecurity, if you're looking to break in the industry, if you want to dabble with SOC stuff. I'm telling you, do not pass up this opportunity. John does this class like 3 times a year. This is the first time this year it's happening. This is an amazing opportunity. I'm telling you, I've taken multiple of John's classes. He's an excellent teacher. The networking is awesome. If you have any feedback yourself in chat about Antisyphon training, let me know. But go ahead. I'm going to actually pin this because I'm really, really excited when John brings his training around. Thank you, Antisyphon training. All right, guys. I just saw Fleetus post in the 3rd dropping gifted subs. Thank you, Fleetus post in the 3rd. Not only is he giving gifted subs out, but he'll be on the jaw-jacking panel. So if you have any questions for Fleetus, who's got a ton of experience on hiring, on the blue side, on a million things, it's all about good times. Guys, every single day of the week has a special segment, and Fridays is James McQuiggan joke of the week. Okay, hold on one second. James McQuiggan's joke of the week at 35. He's at 35,000 feet. And he's got some rib ticklers for you, okay? Here we go. All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, James McQuiggan wants you to know who is Frosty's favorite aunt. Now, we had a bit of a winter hit across the United States this week, so we're getting some winter jokes here. Who is Frosty's favorite aunt? Well, obviously, it's Aunt Arctica. Aunt Arctica. Oh my God, and it looks like I have to do manual sound effects. Ha ha! All right, thank you, James McQuiggan. Guys, what do you call a picture taken at the North Pole? What do you call a picture taken at the North Pole? Obviously, we're going to call it a Polaroid. And why did the hacker pour warm water on his computer? Why did the hacker pour warm water on his computer? Well, apparently his Windows froze. His Windows froze. Oh my God. All right, James McQuiggan at 35,000 feet. If you do come across this individual at a conference or in the grocery store, be sure to say hello to him. Love myself some James McQuiggan at 35,000 feet. And his dad jokes. He's an absolute committed to the cause as far as dad jokes go. All right, guys. Alpha Sierra is going to lead us off for our la 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 la's. Drum major Alpha Sierra. Oh, hold on. That kind of crept up on us a little bit, right? Get ready for our la la la's. All right, that was awesome. We let that one breathe a little bit. Thank you all so very much. It is a Friday, so I wanted to let it breathe. Oh, it's so good. Such a great song. Such just good vibes. All right, let's slide back into the news. First, let me just do this DeleteMe ad read. We'll do this. I use DeleteMe. I like it. I actually got a report a couple days ago from DeleteMe, and then we're going to finish strong. Oh, Don Weber is here already. Excellent. All right, let's do DeleteMe and
As a
then
person
slide.
that exists publicly, especially since I share my opinions and hot takes daily, I'm hyper aware of my safety and security, and it's even easier to find personal information about people online these days. All the data is just hanging out there on the internet, and it can have real-life consequences. But I recently found a solution, and this service is called DeleteMe. DeleteMe is a subscription service that removes your personal info from the largest people search databases on the web, and in the process helps prevent ID theft, doxing, phishing scams, stuff like that. And when you sign up, you tell DeleteMe what data you want deleted, and they go off and do it. The cool thing is you get a personalized privacy report every month that shows what they deleted, where they found it, etc. It's pretty cool. For me personally, it's like outsourcing your online privacy, which honestly, I don't have time to do that myself or do it well. So for them to handle it is awesome. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for DeleteMe now at the special discount for Simply Cyber listeners. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/simplycyber and enter code simplycyber at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/simplycyber.
All right, thank you very much, DeleteMe. And I just want to really quickly, DJ BSEC has run the numbers for this Cisco vulnerability, meeting management vulnerability. The EPSS score, just so everybody knows, has a 0.06% of you experiencing exploitation in the wild in the next 30 days. But if you do get hit, this vulnerability is basically like in the lower, 26% range, like 20 of all of the vulnerabilities captured in the EPSS catalog. This is, kind of at the 26th percentile. So about 74% of other vulnerabilities are worse than this one. So this is pretty nasty, but this is why we use the EPSS score. I don't think you need to, stop the car and get out and fix this. This is something you can take care of when you get home, get the car in the garage. All a metaphor, your car is the business, and you getting out to fix it is patching this or doing whatever you got to do. All right, let's keep rolling on this. Oh my gosh. Come on now.
ChatGPT's API could have been used in DDoS attacks. Described as an example of, quote, bad programming, end quote, a now fixed vulnerability discovered by German researcher Benjamin Flesch allows an attacker to send unlimited connection requests through ChatGPT's API. He said the bug occurs when the API is processing HTTP post requests to the back-end server and is due to the fact that the manufacturer, OpenAI, quote, did not have a limit on the number of URLs that can be included in a single request, end quote. That error allowed an attacker to cram thousands of URLs within a single request, something that could overload traffic to a targeted website. The vulnerability was assigned a CVSS score of 8.6 because it is a network-based, low-complexity flaw that does not require elevated privileges or user interaction to exploit. Chat.
All right. Looks like we got 2 ChatGPT stories back to back. All right, so here's the deal, okay? It's ChatGPT, but the lesson here is less about ChatGPT and more about secure software development and thinking through use cases, okay? So here's the lesson. We're going to get deep into application security best practices right now. Basically, ChatGPT wrote some type of API, application programming interface, which is essentially extending or opening functionality of a system, in this case ChatGPT, to allow third parties or anyone to interact with that function call to have ChatGPT do something. And APIs or webhooks or whatever you want to call them, you can basically send some information and then get a response back. Like the way that, like, you know, if you've written a Python program that interacts with anything, chances are you used an API, right? Webhooks, Zapier, Jesus, like there's tons of them, right? Like even like modern SOC tools, SOAR, like security orchestration automation, like they're all using webhooks to fly around. That's what APIs are. Now, you got to remember, developers are the ones who are introducing the APIs because you're exposing functionality to the system, you know, to allow anyone to come in and do something. And when you write a function, I don't care if you're writing hello world or you're writing a ChatGPT API, you do have to think about, okay, I'm allowing input into this system. Classic SQL injection, right? You got a username and password field, and someone can put in SQL, you know, keywords and SQL formatted language and execute a SQL attack. No, that's not allowed because you have to do input validation on that. With an API call, it's programming, but at the end of the day, it's literally just allowing some input to come in, and you can't control what is going to be put in as input. This is how fuzzing works. So what you need to do is, once you ingest via the API call, you need to do some type of, you know, basically evaluation to see, is this, you know, within the expected parameters of what I was thinking. In this instance, they wrote it to accept URLs, okay? And they probably thought, oh, we'll make sure that the inputs are all URLs. We won't allow them to put in 1,000 A's, which is like a common fuzzing technique in order to do buffer overflows and stuff. What they didn't do was, how many URLs can it take? And I mean, this is just one of those fringe use cases that you got to think about. Unfortunately, you won't catch them all, okay? This isn't Pokemon. You're not going to catch them all. But you've got to be mindful that the 80% of things that you're looking for, yes, you need to do them from a best practice perspective. But the 20%, the fringe, that's where threat actors, really novel and innovative security researchers, that's where they operate, and that's where they find these vulnerabilities and exploitation. In this instance, I'm not going to dunk on the developer, okay? Carl! Except for that Carl sound effect. I'm sure that they were geeked up and excited about the functionality that it worked. And again, this is one of those clear delineations where I can point to it and say, this is the difference between IT and cybersecurity. IT says, oh, look at all this functionality. Look what you can do. You can put in 1 URL, 2 URL, 3 URL, right? You get your count, what was his name in Sesame Street? It was just the count, right? You can get just like your count action going and feeling great, and IT's pumped because they've written a tool that everyone's using in the business. And then cybersecurity comes in like a wet blanket full of sand and is like, actually, we really should limit the number of URLs. But why? Why would we ever want to do that? Well, because if I give 10,000 URLs, I'm going to absolutely choke slam ChatGPT and kind of use it as a weapon. So the TLDR for me on this story is that when you're developing anything, APIs, software, you need to think through, especially with input, what is the parameters? What is the boundaries? What am I expecting as normal input? And then anything else, put controls around to limit, and then...
Did we just become best friends?
Yup.
Oh boy, we got a super chat coming in here. The pain, Hold off the wrecking ball. Okay, I see you, the pain. Hold off the wrecking ball. Got the offer for a data center job, but had to ultimately decline. Oh my gosh. This community is what kept me motivated and on task to be able to re-enter IT after 13 years. Well, I will tell you this. First of all, come on now. The pain. Hey, if you had to decline that job, first of all, congratulations on getting the job offer. That's phenomenal. If you had to decline the job, that's okay. I got to tell you, man, it's the ball's in your court. That's where we want to be. Just because you get a job offer doesn't mean you have to like throw yourself on the tracks and be like, oh, like hit me with a train if you need to, but this is a job. Like you need to make sure that a job is a good fit for you and that you are a good fit for them. Remember, a job interview is a two-way street. A job offer is a two-way street. Don't see it as like something you have to take and accept. All right, anyways, ChatGPT, you busted.
GPT goes dark temporarily. In further ChatGPT news, the service went down temporarily yesterday, with users worldwide finding the generative AI tool unresponsive and providing a bad gateway message. Its developer, OpenAI, reported, quote, elevated error rates, end quote, on its status page, but despite its recovery, no explanation for the outage has yet been provided. Subaru security flaws exposed.
Okay, hold on one second. I see some people in chat talking about Count Dracula and Count Chocula from the store, from the cereal. Let's just be clear what we're talking about here. Okay, I don't know if this is like a millennial thing or Gen X thing, and you Gen Zs don't know what's up, but Gen Z's been appropriating a lot of like millennial stuff, so I'm sure this thing will come into vogue with you guys in a minute. So allow me to make you on the left side of this bleeding edge curve. This right here is the count, okay? This guy is seminal in every kid's life in the United States, at least. He basically loves counting numbers, like 1, 2, This is the count right here, okay? What's up, dude? This guy, underrated. I gotta tell you. Big Bird, Snuffleupagus, Elmo. Elmo was like the viral toy of like 2009. The count? Don't sleep on the count. This guy's legit. I like the count. In fact, I'm going to make an official position right now. I think the Count is probably the best Sesame Street character there is. The guy doesn't compromise. He's vigilant. Okay? He's GRC. This guy's got GRC written all over him. He's thorough, comprehensive, always counting everything, auditing. Are you kidding me? We should aspire to be like the Count. I like this guy. Let's go. All right, ChatGPT went dark. Guess what? If you build your entire business plan around a solution like this, it's called business continuity. Have a plan. Right? Have a DR plan, disaster recovery. ChatGPT is a third-party service. They're printing money, so like they're probably not going to go down. But just imagine for a second they go down. What, are you going to fold your business because your third party went down? No. If you can, have a backup solution. Have it's Claude AI or Anthropic, Gemini or whatever. Like one of these other big ones. Have a backup plan that can at least do some level of mission critical business for you in the interim until ChatGPT gets back up. Honestly, in my opinion, this is a hot take. Hot take. Tinfoil hat if you want. I canceled my ChatGPT subscription. I used to pay for it. I use Claude, which is the Anthropic front end. I use Claude for business, and I use Gemini for personal. And someone asked me to make a video on that and why I do that, and I'm happy to do that. I've just been wicked busy and traveling and such. But yeah. So, anyways, TLDR, whatever it is, dude. If you are dependent on another business for your mission critical delivery of services, and you don't have a backup plan, oh, dude. If you run backwards through a cornfield without pants on, I'm not saying you're gonna get got, but you're you're playing with fire, dude. It could happen. You could have a bad day running backwards through a cornfield without pants. You know what I'm saying? So don't tease fate. Have a backup plan. Let's go.
Tracking system for millions of cars. Sam Curry, a researcher with a long history of discovering vulnerabilities in automotive brands, has now revealed vulnerabilities in the web portal belonging to Subaru that allowed him to unlock a car, his mother's car actually, start its ignition and reassign control of those features to a different phone or computer. He also discovered that the portal was able to track the physical movements of a Subaru down to a single parking space in front of any building, with data stretching back a full year. This was occurring within a Subaru feature called Starlink, intended for use by employees at Subaru of America. Subaru stated that the individuals authorized to use the technology, quote, receive proper training and are required to sign appropriate privacy, security, and NDA agreements as needed, end quote, and that the systems have, quote, security monitoring solutions in place, which are continually evolving to meet modern cyber threats, end quote.
Okay, hey, really quickly, I just got fact-checked, and this is going to make me feel even old. Like, I literally just felt my beard and my hair get older. Get grayer. Don Weber, who's actually going to be joining us on Jawjacking panel today, he's an ICS, Industrial Control Systems security expert, so we're bringing you that kind of knowledge today on Jawjacking panel. Just confirmed that Tickle Me Elmo was released in July of 1996, and that's when the Tickle Me Elmo craze went on. Yo, 96? That was like almost 30 years ago? 30 years ago? Playoffs? Jesus criminy. 30 years ago, the Tickle Me Elmo thing was hot? Wow. All right. And just casually, Joseph, Tickle Me Elmo toy was like a big surge thing during Christmas of 96, where people were like beating each other up in the storefronts and robbing each other in the parking lot. And for those who don't know, Casually Joseph is our token Gen Z who I feel we have to explain certain millennial things to, although he absolutely loathes the fact that I do that. All right, guys, check it out. Subaru security vulnerability. As much as I'm going to take this in a weird place, everybody, so, sit down. As much as this story right here about CISOs getting boardroom presence and getting a seat at the table and being able to drop bombs, and I took a victory lap. I took a victory lap for GRC Mafia. This story right here, this story makes me want to cry a little bit. GRC Mafia, we died a little bit with this story. So here's the deal. These Subaru cars, just like many of the cars now, they have some type of beaconing. Essentially, they basically have a persistence mechanism that reports back to a C2 node controlled by Subaru. Subaru can use this persistence mechanism to help people who own Subarus, tell them where their car is located, get telemetry, collect information, see how people are using it, all probably in the name of customer service and product improvement. The problem is, I don't know if anyone opted into this, and secondly, their security controls, at least in the story, involved staff being properly trained and, signing NDAs or signing agreements that they would use the technology correctly. Yo, if you, this is one where, you can't just use GRC controls to secure this, okay? GRC is awesome, but we are just one leg on the stool. You need good technical controls that are implemented correctly, configured properly, and monitored. And this dude, shout out to him, was able to basically bump in through and exploit this to see where his mom's car was. I think they said he could start the car, unlock the car. Guys, this is like how, whatever. I mean, Kia boys kind of blew up last year about stealing Kia cars, but I don't want anyone to know where my car is or where I'm driving to or how to unlock it or how to steal it or how to hurt or how to. Dude, can you imagine unlocking it and then putting something in my car and then locking it and you're like, oh, why would I think anything's wrong with my car? It's been locked this whole time. This is, so Don Weber's dropping knowledge bombs in here. Guys, API security. So the guy's definitely using APIs in order to interface with this. Again, we talked about this ChatGPT API issue. There's a lot with APIs. APIs are super, super common and super, super important to secure correctly. Don also mentioned certificate security. This is basically to ensure that the connections coming from the car are in fact legitimate and they're not coming from this dude's laptop at a Starbucks. I actually think that this could have some blowback for Subaru, not just from a security risk perspective, but from Did you tell anyone? Did people know? Were they opting into it? This has like gross privacy violations. And while the United States privacy, regulations are a patchwork and not super stringent, GDPR in Europe, which I guarantee you Subarus are driving around in Europe, could really come to be something of interest. So this is a really interesting story to me. You can get a year's worth of location history data on the car, pinged multiple times a day. So now, listen, if the car is pinged multiple times a day and I can pull up a year, do you know what I can do from an OPSEC perspective? I can see like clustering.
Did we just become best friends?
Yep.
I can see clustering. Oh, this is where they work probably. This is where they live probably. Oh, and then look, every once in a while they go and spend a lot of time here 1 hour away. What are they doing at that 1 hour away place? All right, Rex with a super chat, $5 super chat. Thanks to the super chat. Rex says, I just turned $40. I just turned 40 yesterday, and you have to make me feel how old I am today? Today, with the history of childhood lesson, I feel attacked. Well, guess what, Rex? Welcome to the party, pal. Welcome to the party, pal.
Welcome to the party, pal.
All right, final story, and then we can get into some jaw
A
jacking.
link to Curry's blog is available in the show notes to this episode.
Oh, this last one's kind of...
Magic Backdoor targets enterprise Juniper routers. A new campaign discovered by Black Lotus Labs and named J-Magic focuses in on Juniper brand routers at the edge of high-value networks. According to Nate Nelson, writing in Dark Reading, quote, such routers typically lack endpoint detection and response protection, are in front of a firewall, and don't run monitoring software, making the attacks harder to detect, end quote. In this instance, exposed enterprise routers are tapped with a variant of a 25-year-old backdoor named CD00R, which, quote, stays dormant until it receives an activation phrase, also known as a magic packet, end quote. At this point, it grants access to a reverse shell from which its attackers can steal data, manipulate configurations, and spread to more devices.
Okay. So, I've never been a Juniper... I've worked, I have a lot of gray in my hair, okay? I've never really worked in an environment that had Juniper. I've run in Aruba, I've run in Cisco. Some smaller offices I've run in has had kind of a hodgepodge, but never really at Juniper. This story, it looks like they're targeting Juniper networks. They're saying that the problems here are more around being in front of the firewall, so internet facing, but then not properly configured. It says it doesn't really have EDR on it. I don't know. You tell me. I don't really think of EDR solutions as being deployed on networking devices. Usually the networking devices have some level of security, but you don't run CrowdStrike on a router. Unless, hey, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in chat. Maybe I'm wrong. But last time I checked, you're not running EDR agents on those things. The second thing about this story that actually straight up bothers me, and I don't know about you, and if you guys are long timers, you know that I'm there's certain things that just piss me off, I guess. I can't explain why or what, but in this particular, I think it's because words matter, and when you say something, it means something, and I don't like this. So they say the campaign from Black Lotus Labs, right? So I guess they're either a threat actor or a security researcher, hones in on Juniper brand routers at the edge of high-value networks. What are you talking about? I got to tell you guys, businesses do not register with some type of authority on what tech stack they're using and how valuable their network is. This high-value network is such a subjective statement. How is Black Lotus Labs identifying when they find an exposed Juniper router that's misconfigured and in front of a firewall and it's a hot mess? And they're like, oh, but it's a high-value network. Yeah, DJ Bisek is mentioning Shodan. Yeah, we can definitely use Shodan to enumerate all of these networks. I can give you a list right now of all the Juniper-facing, internet-facing routers, okay? Shodan will do that for us. Tell me, if I give you that list, which ones are high-value and which ones are bullshit. right? Like I don't know. It just annoys me. I know it shouldn't, but it does. And then they say that it's using a 25-year-old backdoor called CD00R. So we're getting back to early 2000s. I feel like we're kind of not, I mean, this is not even like loft crack days. This is like, beyond that. But, and I guess this backdoor requires a magic packet. This is kind of a funny, sending a magic packet to your backdoor in order to open it up is like such a 90s style hacker move to do. Like where you'd have cool names like Acid Burn and Crash Override, and then you'd send, I bet you the magic packet is like called Open Sesame or something silly like that. They are saying that it is targeting small and home offices, which, obviously can make a lot of sense. Basically the TLDR, I think I'm really talking to MSPs. If you work at an MSP in chat, or you have your own MSP, your IT or InfoSec, you're servicing clients at small businesses and they're running Juniper, you may want to just do a quick scan, see what's going on, and then look at the configuration and stuff and just tighten it up. This definitely seems like one of those kind of set it and forget it type things where you get them sorted out. You can go threat hunting if you'd like. Go threat hunting for this 25-year-old CD00R backdoor. It's 25 years old. There's clearly going to be well-established, well-documented indicators of compromise that you can look for. If you are a small home office or whatever, you could look in your network logs for telemetry. Although I will point out, if it requires your Juniper device to be in front of your main firewall to your corporate network, you might not even be catching telemetry from that device, depending on how you've set up your network and logs and stuff like that. Since if the Juniper device is compromised, like literally the info would be coming from the internet, hitting the Juniper device first and then going back out. So technically, unless you're basically catching network telemetry from outside your network on the DMZ, you might not even see it, frankly. Whatever. I guess that's the story. All right, we are at time. This is perfect. Let's keep going. Guys, I got to share with you, we absolutely destroyed this week. We destroyed this day, and we're not even done yet. The real talent is going to be coming up in just a hot minute. We're going to be joined by, looks like DJ BSEC, Eric Taylor, possibly. Oh, Eric Taylor's gone. Don Weber. I think Fleet is posting wants to join us. So, guys, we got a great jaw-jacking panel coming up. Don't go anywhere, because literally we are going to be presenting you with industry experts across multiple dimensions to answer all of your questions. How do I get into information? How do I get into industrial control system security? Is the Juniper thing really a big deal? Why is GRC so awesome? These questions and more we will answer for you during the jaw-jacking panel. So don't go anywhere. I got to tell you, it's been a hell of a day. It's been a great week. I appreciate all of you for enabling me to bring the show to you in a 80% business continuity capacity here in Atlanta. Hashtag Team Sippy Cup. I'm Jerry from Simply Cyber. Be sure to go to the Discord server and engage with the community. We'll be there all weekend banging around. But the show will be back on Monday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. I will be back in the main studio, so we'll be operating at 100%. I'm Jerry from Simply Cyber. Thank you so very much. Don't go anywhere. We got jaw-jacking coming in a hot minute.
Ever wonder what it takes to break into cybersecurity? Join us every weekday for Jaw-Jacking, where industry experts answer your burning questions about the cybersecurity field. Live, unfiltered, and totally free. Let's level up together. It's time for some jaw-jacking.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Jaw-Jacking. I'm your host, Jerry Guy. I'm going to probably have to keep this thing. I tried to change my camera to the main camera, not OBS, and my computer's like, no, not today, Jerry. Oh, you just want to use your camera? No. Maybe you reboot and we'll get that sorted out. Jaw-Jacking is a 30-minute AMA panel. It might go longer on Fridays, where we bring industry experts to you and answer your questions. So if you have a question, start it with a Q, put a dot on it, and then ask your question. Let it fly. We will flag it. I will be facilitating. But let me introduce you to your panel. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Fleet is posting. Here we go. There we go. Fleetus is in. Okay, let me introduce you. You guys know him as DJ BSEC Behind the Glass. He brought you live news from the streets of H-Town. DJ BSEC, Ghetto Boys, cybersecurity. It's all what's going on down there. Ladies and gentlemen, DJ BSEC.
The Ghetto Boys?
Yeah.
Oh, man. We're doing a lot of throwbacks today, aren't we?
BSEC, you might want to goose your mic just a smidge.
All
right, guys, we've got a guest panelist today. We're hopefully going to be bringing him on more often. We're actually in discussion with him, bringing a show to the Simply Cyber Media Group. So if you like his style, let us know. He's a wonderful person. I've known him for a few years. If you want to go way back in the Wayback Machine, if you're a regular Simply Cyber long-timer, he was actually on a show that I started called What's on Your Radar that aired for about 2 months. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a former, or, I guess Marines don't say they're former Marines, but he's a Marine. He loves himself some industrial control systems, and he's a really good guy. Ladies and gentlemen, Don Weber. Don, you're on the air.
Hey, sir. How you doing?
I'm awesome, dude. What do you think of the show so far, Don?
Hey, it's awesome. I've got lots of notes.
Oh, good. All right. Well, hey, while you bring your questions up on chat, everybody, since Don is our guest today, Don, any of the stories you want to comment on or thoughts that you might have that could give some context for the community?
Yeah. So, I just want to say thanks for having me back, man. It's good to see you. I think like the last time we talked was like pre-COVID, like right when it was kicking off. And we had some recording issues. We've come a long way. No, I really want to point out the TSA stuff because you mentioned the very first topic was the TSA. How obviously as new administrations come in, there's a change of command. And that you're correct that it's not surprising that happened. But you made one of the common misconceptions, which is what I did. I just assumed that TSA was in charge of checking everybody in to our flights and stuff like that. No, if you go over to, I put a link in the private chat. I don't have access to the other chat, but tsa.gov SD-AND-EA, that link right there, that shows you all of the security directives and the emergency amendments. And when you read through that, you see that TSA is in charge of rail, public transportation, airport security, not just checking people in, but the actual what's going on within the airports as well, data security around that, pipeline security, because that's all related to transportation. And TSA actually has a whole auditing department that will go in and check up on these things. They're providing guidance. And so when they're talking about how that last director really furthered cybersecurity for the TSA, yes, they worked really hard to make the directives happen. There was a lot of knee-jerk reactions after Colonial Pipeline, and so some of the directives were unimplementable at first, and so they had to deal with the community to get some input about what was actionable and what actually reduced risk within these environments as well. So he did a great job going forward. Hopefully the next person just picks up the ball and keeps rolling with it.
100%. Thank you for that context. Definitely appreciate that. I will be having to mute myself on and off because apparently the mobile studio has audio issues. I'm not quite sure why. I run a pretty tight audio ship up in here. No, I don't. That's a joke. Hey, guys, we got 2 more panelists coming into chat. I love this. You guys know him as Fleetus Poston III. He gifted some subs in stream today. He's also got his own YouTube channel where he's helping people out. Ladies and gentlemen, a familiar face on the jaw-jacking panel. Hey, Fleetus, how you doing?
Good morning, everyone.
All right, awesome. And then my own good friend and Gen Z representative, we call him Kashmir lovingly, but you might know him publicly as Casually Joseph. Ladies and gentlemen, Casually Joseph. How you doing, Joseph?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm loving life, brother. All right, so let's just launch into it. Just so everybody knows and in full disclosure, starting from left to right, Don Weber, all the way over there. He is a longtime cybersecurity professional, but if you have questions about industrial control systems, Don has got your back. DJ BSEC is slowly getting away from the keyboard and becoming management, which is pretty dope. He is a network engineer turned GRC lover, DJ BSEC. Fleetus Poston. Fleetus, correct me if I'm wrong. Fleetus manages a SOC in a fleet of SOC analysts. He's hired tons of SOC people, knows the ins and outs of blue teaming in the blue team world, and questions around that would be really, really good, right? Is that fair, Fleetus?
Yeah, that's good. I've got a good cyber defense background, so I can cover a good bit of that.
Okay, cool.
Actually, Don and I have passed paths in the past from the ICS work I did in a large utility. So Don and I know each other from past lives.
Oh, that's awesome. Cybersecurity is such a small world. I love it. And then casually, Joseph down here, ton of things from education, learning to vulnerability management to dealing with end users. We got you guys covered. Okay, let's get into the questions. I'm going to start fielding these. Moshe Levy, and if you don't know about Moshe Levy, he was featured on our Religious Leader to Cybersecurity career video on the channel. Are there any single points of the failure of the internet now in 2025? Dang, that's a good question. Don Weber, what do you think about this?
Well, I mean, the internet is the internet because it's disparate, meaning that there's a lot of routers all around the world. It used to be like back in the day when we were kids, right? At first it was it would have probably been easier to attack all of the core routers, but these days they've really spread it out. Obviously, the threat model is huge. I do think that the Juniper attack, one of the risks around that, because of the shared infrastructure, certainly they've it's a heterogeneous environment. It's still going to affect some of those. So if those Juniper routers, if those vulnerable routers are external, then yeah, absolutely. If they're part of that, the core internet, then they possibly could be affected. So ISPs, when they talk about those high value network and so forth, they're talking about ISPs, and then obviously possibly some critical infrastructure that might have it out there. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, it's definitely good. And our network engineer turned GRC mafia. BSEC, what do you think about
Hopefully
this?
my mic's up and you can hear it. Phil Stafford just put in as well DNS, but one of the big things is the border gateway protocol, BGP. That can take down a lot of stuff very fast. Now, it is a slow protocol, so it takes longer to get everything out. But when you see like Facebook go and implement something and it takes something down, or Microsoft implement something on their gateway protocol, it takes something down. When you see services go down, that's usually because somebody screwed up BGP or DNS, as Phil Stafford said, but usually it's BGP. It's one of those two. So is there a single point of failure? There's not necessarily a single point of failure, but that would be the closest thing that I can think of, is somebody messing up some type of routing table for BGP or some DNS records that get pushed out. That could be a single point of failure, but there's so many redundancies in place that I don't think that will ever happen. And Jerry's got to unmute himself.
I hate that. Just another thing about BSEC is, while it is slow to roll out, that also is slow to correct. So even if you catch the problem and you fix it, you basically are at the whims of routing protocols propagating across the internet. So those outages, there's never a quick BGP outage. It's usually a dumpster fire.
Well, and if anybody's ever worked with external DNS, like you have your own register.com or GoDaddy or whatnot, you have TLS in there, right? So, or did I say that right? TL. You've got your TTL, your time to live, where you decide how long it's going to take for that next propagation of your record. So on your side, you may have it set for an hour, and then when it actually propagates to another DNS record, then it's going to propagate out and out and out. So like Jerry said, depending on how far you've got to go out or how far that actually went, depends on the time it's going to take to get back.
Our next question comes from Simply Curly, throwing it to Fleetus. He wants to know, SOC or GRC? He's got a meeting with the company's InfoSec manager this morning, hopefully pretty soon, so this is a timely question. What would be best to ask for the job test to shadow?
So why not both? I think you guys have heard me, and I think all of us could attest on here. Without understanding GRC, your SOC's not going to be successful. So to be completely frank, you can start in either place. I have seen people transition in and out of the SOC and in and out of GRC roles. So it really goes down to, it depends. What do you want your day in the life to look like? Are you looking to be looking through logs, alerts, triaging consoles? Or do you rather want to sit and interview get to know the policies, the procedures, the compliances that enable your business and your SOC to work. So what's going to wake you up excited each and every day? And I know that's going to change as you get deeper in your field. All of us have touched each and everything multiple times. So think about what you want your day to look like. Do you want to sit in front of a console staring at ones and zeros or packet captures or alerts or chasing down business email compromise? Or would you rather sit in a room and make sure you have strong policies, procedures, and a governance platform? Both are important to the field. So again, it depends on what your strengths and weaknesses are and what your aspirations are in the field.
There you go. Great response. Thank you, Fleetus, and good luck with that meeting. I honestly, simply Curly, I love the fact that your business is like the fact that you're having that meeting with your boss is freaking awesome. A lot of businesses will just freaking Heisman you into a place and be like, you stay right there. All right. Next question's from me, coming from Kerry. He's got some experience with medical training because of his Navy time. He's got the A+. Should he look into IT healthcare? Yeah, absolutely. I got to tell you, I worked in healthcare for 5-6 years. Healthcare is a phenomenal environment to operate in. Lots of different systems, lots of different players. The mission itself is always amazing because it's patient safety and real lives are on the line. So definitely go after it, Kerry. Don't sleep on that. Next question, my man, Kyle. Kyle, going to throw this to Kashmir. Any differ tips looking for evidence of deleted files on a USB drive? He's using Autopsy. What do you think, Kashmir?
There's a couple different places you can look for evidence of deleted files. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking of the, what's it called? The master boot record or the master file table. Both of those are going to have evidence of files that may have been on there. That would be applicable if you had the USB on the drive before the files were deleted. Fleetus, remind me, where are they located on? There's some slack space on the drives, right? That you can find evidence of it as well, right?
Yeah, and I'm also with you this morning. I will say defer is not my strongest point. So you've got on your Windows, there's underlying cache tables, there's there's all these other places inside of the Windows platform. I can't speak to how the USB flashes its memory. It depends on what the storage unit you're using is, where it actually keeps the memory that's on it. But you can see file transfers back and forth between a USB at the registry level as well as inside of the Windows operating system.
Yeah, and Jerry pointed out in chat about the prefetch. That is applicable if the drive is constantly on. The problem is if the files were on the USB and they were never launched or interacted with, then the computer isn't going to necessarily have a record of them. If it's an internal drive like the C drive, then it's more likely going to have a record of those. But there are a few different things. I know I heard you mention the SAM, but you have your shim cache, your AM cache. You have all these different places you can go looking to see if the file was ever interacted with on the computer.
Shameless plug too, depending on how you do backup and recoveries, once you mount that drive, it could be scanned by your endpoint tools.
True.
To actually say that file existed somewhere on one of your attached drives. So you could look at your endpoint detection tools and your backup tools that are on the endpoint.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you, Fleetus. Thank you, Joseph. As always, you guys are killing it. Cyber Butterfly asks, if John Strand's course is recorded, can it be taken at your own pace instead of live? I will say, and somebody on the panel fact check me if you can, they do publish John's classes not live on YouTube. So you do want to register for it so you can get the certificate and some of the other benefits that come with being inside the Antisyphon system. But they were live streaming their all the class. So because it's on YouTube, it will be recorded, so you can go do that. Daniel Lowry was in chat. Daniel Lowry's over at Antisyphon. So if him or Kathy Chambers or Zach Killer here, please confirm that. But Cyber Butterfly, yeah, definitely take advantage. That class is awesome. I'm looking at questions here. Actually, let me ask a question to Don Weber. Don, you're an ICS guy. ICS is kind of like this black box of information security. Personally, I feel like you either get, you just kind of fall into it and then that's your career path. There isn't I feel like if you want to get into SOC or get into Red or get into GRC, there's very clear paths to go. And ICS kind of seems like this murky area for people who want to even explore if ICS is something that they want to do. what do you recommend when someone asks you that? Like, oh, what is ICS? Should I check that out?
Well, so first of all, I did fall into it. I just kind of showed a proclivity towards security research, got hired onto an organization that was doing research into smart meters. So I fell into it, and as a part of my they educated me into this field. It used to be unique, meaning that it was a domain, as you said, that was kind of hidden. You had to actually get a job with, utility or a manufacturing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times what they did is they hired they just took their OT admin. They said, hey, you're doing cybersecurity. We don't know what it is, but apparently we have to do it. So that's how it first started. But just like any other domain, now we're starting to see a progression. We're starting to see outreach. In other words, there's more demand for it. So, I mean, if you want to get into it, all you got to do is jump on LinkedIn. I'm assuming that most people are on LinkedIn. You could just do a Google job search and start using those key terms like OT, operational technology, industrial control systems, critical infrastructure, and you're going to see a plethora of jobs just pop up. Now, is it going to be more challenging because you don't have this OT background? Possibly, but what you have to realize is a lot of these organizations, they need this cybersecurity help. Hopefully they're going to train you on that OT side. There is a little bit of gatekeeping in the industry right now, meaning that they're saying that they're scared of these cybersecurity professionals that are coming in without the operational technology experience, because there are different risks. There are different operational requirements. You can't do the same things that you would do in an IT environment in the OT environment. That's the biggest fear. So if you come in, if you start interviewing and you start saying that I understand there's different operational requirements, I understand that I can't do my normal techniques, they're applicable, but I have to ask, I have to be careful, you're going to go a lot further in your job interviews than anybody else. Does that answer your question, Joe?
Yeah, it does 100%, and it actually gives greater context than I even wanted. But that's why we have somebody like you on the panel to be able to answer those questions.
Hey,
phenomenal.
Jerry,
Thank you.
To piggyback
Don.
off that real quick, to what Don was saying, it's like you said, it's a complete and different environment. So something you might do on the IT side might shut off a computer. Something on the OT side might blow up a plant. That's kind of where that's why you need to understand what's going on there. Because if you shut off a valve and that valve is a blow-off valve, and now you've back pressured everything, we got problems. Mm-hmm. So that's where a lot of this comes.
It's difficult to put that into context to see it. The way I like to talk about it is the cascading effects of a change. You can think about it in workflow when you're interacting with an API. And you put you send some data to that API, it might not affect that first part of the application, but how is that data handled further down in the workflow in some other application? How does it get stored in log files and other things? And that's what we're talking about here. But as he was just talking about, now you're not just dealing with the database. Now you're dealing with the physical world, physical impacts on things. And if you bring something down, if you bring a database down, the rest of the plant might be reliant on that. As soon as it sees it goes down, it says, oh, I have to shut down. And when you were thinking about shutting down a plant, think about the chemicals that might be in that plant. Okay, do we have to manage that and control that? Yes, when plants are down, they're actually on because they're managing those chemicals and stuff like that. So having a failure, as you was just describing, could have consequences to the physical world and people. So thanks for that input.
Yeah, and I have a question for Don, if you don't mind. I have a few people that come to the local meetup all the time that are always asking for tips on how to get into OT management, not even just OT security, something even lower than OT security. Like if they were trying to break into OT in general, what would your number one tip be?
Like my son searching for his first job, it's just like that. It's finding those opportunities, looking, people are advertising these things. If it's not on LinkedIn, if it's not on Google Jobs, then go directly to the sites. Look in your local areas, look at the factories, the critical infrastructures. There's one of the things that I got educated to just 2 years ago was cooperatives, small utilities that are in your local areas that are serving more of a rural environment. There's municipalities, there's water and wastewater. There's local manufacturing. There's port, like in Corpus Christi, we have ports, we have refineries, and just looking at their websites for these jobs, whether they're management or cybersecurity, they're advertising them. Now, when you're talking about management, they're probably going to have that expectation that you did some work in an operational environment. So it really depends. Can you educate yourself to talk enough to be able to demonstrate to them that you understand what's going on in there, how it's, it is different than, your corporate environments, your internet infrastructure, and so forth. Does that help, Joseph?
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, yeah, we are just cruising right now. If you're just joining us, this is Jaw Jacking. It's a 30-minute plus on Fridays. AMA, Cybersecurity Answer Your Questions panel. We're joined by Don Weber, ICS expert, DJ BSEC, networking and, I guess, becoming a suit. And casually Joseph, vulnerability management, a little bit younger in his career, representing that Gen Z pop. And, of course, I love myself some GRC. Just a couple quick fires here. Veggie Broth asks for a video explaining the VISS scoring system. Veggie Broth, I'm assuming that you mean EPSS scoring system, unless there is a VISS and I don't know about that. I will say, if you want to know about that, the tool that DJ BSEC has released that's super awesome, go watch. I had Brandon Poole on my channel. I just realized I have a meeting with Brandon Poole right now that I'm missing that I should have canceled. Brandon Poole, there's a video called so you're doing vulnerability management wrong, and he goes through extensively and explains that EPSS system. So go check that out. Question for Don. Don, in your opinion, will AI increase or decrease cybersecurity jobs? And you can give the big picture, but I'm also thinking, where are you at as far as in the ICS space too, Don?
I've never been a good predictor of industry direction. Obviously, I was older. I was like, I wanted to ignore AI. I'm like, get off my lawn. I don't want this involved. And now all of a sudden I'm finding myself, even during assessments and so forth, jumping on it. And one of the most advantageous things that I've experienced with AI is I can Google specific things like, how do I run this command? And what it does is now I don't have to sift through all of the blog posts and the advertising and stuff like that. And the different AIs, they really filter out all of this searching for me. I still have to validate that it's true. I can't just run commands, cut and paste and stuff like that. But it's really helped. One of my key AI tricks now is I add be succinct at the end of it, just so that it doesn't do all of the, if I don't need to know all the comments about it, it just gives me the command. So I do think it's helping people do their jobs. As far as changing them in the future, there's a reason why we still have pilots in the aircrafts, and I have some pilot friends, and, the plane can take off and land itself. However, when there's issues, when there's problems, when the power goes out, you need a human being that's able to get in there and start managing that situation. They make better decisions quickly with brand new inputs, and certainly AI is going to get faster and faster at that. So I do think understanding the hallucinations and so forth is important, for anybody going forward. But I don't know how it's going to help people in the future. It's all dependent on yourself.
Fleetus, thoughts?
Yeah, so similar to what Donna was speaking to, and we've heard on other calls, it's RAG is going to be more important as we get deeper into this, getting the temperature sets, making sure we get our commands, we understand where our models are. So I think you're going to see a mix of rabbit chasing. Like, we're going to be chasing a lot of things down a lot of holes real quickly just to fill them to get filled back in real quickly. So I think, just like we've talked at other calls and for people who've been around me, this is just a tool in your toolbox. Both offensive, defensive, ICS will find, and the GRC team as well, will find uses for this, positive and negative, just like everything else we've dealt with, starting with MDMs when they first came out. Then we had our EDRs, our extra. Every tool that's came out has always been misused, because we know as a practitioners every software has to be treated as malicious. Every piece of software. We happen to allow Microsoft to run because we trust Microsoft. But at the end of the day, any tool can be used for a malicious reason if it's compromised. We talked about it in one of our articles. It's easy to start fuzzing. Like I can make an application do something differently by finding a flaw in its delivery. Same with AI. As we learn about the hallucinations, as we learn about the temperatures, as we learn about the models they're trained on, as they get smarter, and they understand, we're going to trust it a little bit more, but at the same time, we're also going to have to validate. I always tell people, never ask AI anything you don't already know the answer to.
Yeah, I agree. To me, the way I use AI, and I told people on stream, I use Claude AI, Claude, like Jean-Claude Van Damme, obviously. Claude AI for business stuff, and I use Gemini for personal stuff. Like, Gemini, here's like 8 random things I have in my fridge. Make a meal for me. Like, that's personal. And then, like, I want to send this email, and I need it to be like, professional, whatever.
Hey,
like,
Justin hits it on the head here.
All right.
We all still learn math, but we've had calculators forever.
Yep, that's 100%. Definitely nailing it. I love it. Since you're on stream here, DJ BSEC, I got a Rubik's Cube question for you. How would you design a secure system for storing, transmitting, and accessing sensitive data in a zero trust environment while ensuring the compliance with privacy regs and GDPR and HIPAA?
That is the longest.
I would ask that you answer this in like 2 sentences.
There's no
or less.
2 sentences to that. Good Lord.
I know. Mr. Wednesday, this is a jaw-jacking panel, and we will answer all your questions, but this is like a 60-minute meeting with a whiteboard.
This is a consulting engagement.
That's exactly. I was going to say. This is a $500 an hour question right there.
Yeah. So let's keep going, though. Connor wants to know, does a Tier 1 SOC analyst need a degree if you have technical support engineering experience? I want to, BSEC, answer this question, and then I'm going to ask Fleetus, because Fleetus does hire SOC 1 analysts. But when you're looking to hire people, BSEC, internally, and then answer the question.
We've talked about it all the time. You don't need a degree to be in the field. You need to understand what's going on. As SOC 1, we've talked about SOC 1 being an intro, but we've also explained that cybersecurity isn't an intro job, right? There's introduction into cybersecurity, and there's introduction into technology. You need to understand technology before you're going to just jump into security, because like what Don said earlier when we were talking about IoT and ICS, you got to know something about it to be able to do something with it. And if you don't know anything about it, then you're not going to be able to secure it. You're not going to be able to understand what you're doing. So I can throw you into a SOC and you've never looked at anything, and you're going to start looking at everything that's coming across, and you're going to go, what is this? This doesn't mean anything. It would take me years to get somebody that has zero knowledge over anything to understand what's coming across, versus somebody that's maybe been in IT for a couple of years that actually sees stuff and understands, oh, well, I do know what a vulnerability is. I do understand. I've patched stuff. I understand what this is going to do. You don't need to have a degree to be in the field, but you do need the knowledge of what's going on in the field, especially when you're moving up into cybersecurity. Like I said, you've got IT, and then cybersecurity is that next notch on the belt.
Yeah, and really quick, just a quick programming note. I do have to drop. DJ BSEC's going to keep the train running for you guys. It is a Friday jaw-jacking panel, so you're going to get the oodles of knowledge until 10 a.m. when we're going to go ahead and Simply Cyber raid Daniel Lowry. He's in chat right now, but don't tell him. We're going to blow up his stream. It's going to be epic. Fleetus is going to take this question and keep on answering, but thank you, everybody. Hashtag Team SC. I'll see you guys on Monday. Fleetus, SOC 1 analyst, do you need the degree?
Good. So, very similar to DJ BSEC. Really what we're looking for is curiosity. We want to know that you've taken the time. I don't think it was this. I think it was in another place. I was talking with someone. When I look at someone's resume, and if they have no experience, but they have a GitHub or some markdown that shows me that they've at least attempted something, you're going to move you up just a little bit. If I see someone who's done TS work in the past, I'm going to ask why, how, what did you learn? What did you glean from that? This is where I can find out your soft skills, because again, soft skills are imperative when you get into the SOC. As we've talked about before, and I'm not going to argue with you, but a help desk role is very similar to a tier 1 SOC role. You're running playbooks. You're running through predetermined actions that you're allowed to do if you're in a tiered SOC. If you're in a tier list, it's different. So it should transfer very easily. So the answer to that question is no, the degree is not needed. If you already have the experience, you're good to go. So, and I'll let Don take it now.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we're at a crossroads in the United States. When I was growing up, coming out of high school, and the expectation is that you would go to college, and that was because of what our parents, after World War II, we came back from World War II. All of the soldiers and the families came back, and they really spurred the education because they had all of this money from being overseas. They got education benefits. And so that really drove getting a degree. And that's what became standard within the United States. And the difference is that in Europe, especially in Germany, that's where I heard about this most. But in Europe, they value the trade skills as well, meaning that they identify people that want to go to college and can benefit from college, and they go to college. Other people, they decide what their trade wants to be. And so in the United States, we never kept up with that because we always force people to go get a degree. You need to get a degree. And certainly what's happened over the years is that has degraded a bit. In these days, it's degraded. I mean, it all depends on you and what you put into it and get out of it and so forth. However, we need to get back to the fact that trade skills are just as important as a degree. However, HR hasn't kept up with that. So when people are hiring, when they're going out and filling out their resumes and so forth, and the HR is looking at it, if it doesn't have a degree on there, they're putting it to the bottom of the list, or they're not evaluating it at all. And they're wrong. They're missing these perfect opportunities. However, we need to be patient. This needs to be changed. Now, I mean, one of the reasons why I personally like Kamala Harris is she said that specifically in one of her speeches. And that's why, I like that. I was glad that I was hearing politicians within the United States having this viewpoint. I think it's important. A college degree is extremely valuable. However, technical degrees, technical cybersecurity experience, starting and working your way up through the ranks should be just as important. We just need the HR to slowly do this transition and start recognize this as a technical skill.
Yeah, so on that real quick, just to pull the chat, we need to treat cybersecurity as what we used to treat shoes. We need apprenticeships. We need opportunities to bring people in. I think more and more, and I can attest to some of this because I've helped, schools are bringing in comp sci and security into their middle and high schools. You're starting to see this get taught as an elective in your middle and high school. So I think this is going to help our process. And then you can go into that 2-year trade school and get a certificate versus getting the actual associates and being able to move through. And the certificate's different than a cert. Don't think of it the same way. The certificate's still lection-based training that actually gives you the fundamentals, where a certification's giving you a specific skill on, we'll just say Sec Plus, CompTIAs, your TCMs. So I think that's going to be the benefit. And I've already started working with HR teams of, let's bring them in for 2 years. They're on a 2-year contract. We treat them as an FTE. We train them up. If they work, they're great. If not, they get 2 years of experience, and then we move on. It's an hourly employee. It's not a salary. Have I implemented it yet? No, but I'm working that into my discussions with your HR teams. Is let's try it out. Bring them in at hourly or intern rates, but keep them on for 2 years and see what happens. Make it an apprenticeship. And if they do well, you convert them to an exempt employee.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, and as somebody who is an academic, I have a bachelor's. I'm almost done with my master's. I've learned a lot about the industry through it. I've learned a lot of the fundamentals, right? It teaches me a lot about what businesses want. It teaches me a lot about the business values in terms of operating business. But most of my technical skills were things that I built upon on my own time outside of the degree. The degrees are there to just kind of give you an idea of the layout, and it's really on you to go out and do things on your own to get those skills. So I'm very much of the same idea that we should focus on skills more, and I'm hoping that's a trend that we lean towards.
Well, and one thing that both Fleetus and Don touched on were HR, and HR relies on those ATS systems, and if it doesn't have something in there, then your resume doesn't even get put into the pile, much less on the bottom of the pile. It doesn't even get put in there. So like Fleetus was saying, we have to, as an industry, as our group, when we go ask for somebody and we say, hey, we need to have somebody for help desk or somebody for SOC 1 or whatever it is, that we need to tell them there need to be zero restrictions on this. I just want to get people in and talk with them and find out if we're looking at somebody that needs to be a tier 4 or tier 3 or SOC 2 or something, then yeah, we're looking for some type of experience. But if we're looking for somebody that's going to be on the quote unquote lower level, that we're not looking for all that experience, we need to make sure that HR is not putting that in there and that we're still getting everybody that we should to be able to look at, and not just one or two people because they had a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity or something along those lines, compared to somebody that doesn't necessarily have the experience but has the willing to learn. Because
I always love reading
things.
those job requirements for introductory positions, and it says it needs 5 years of cybersecurity experience and a bachelor's degree. I'm just like, how I don't even have this experience. How am I supposed to become this person?
Well, the crazy thing is, on a lot of those, you need it's an entry level job, and they want this. Like for the last 4 years, it was crazy because you'd always see it's an entry level job, and they want CISSP.
Yep.
You can't be an entry level job. You can't have CISSP. You have to have at least 5 years experience, and somebody's got to sign off and all this other stuff. That's not entry level. So quit putting stuff on there that doesn't relate to what the job is.
Let's dive into that a little more. I'm going to do a shameless plug for a local group here in the Carolinas. It's called Fish Club. Their entire goal is to find high school and college grads and just help them with that transition. So like I went to an event last night. There's another member who was actually sitting and doing our Meta CTF at the event. Shameless plug, I won't call him out, but he sat there during the event and did the CTF during it. But there was a high school student who attended this meeting. He is already being recruited because of his OPSEC. Like because he started with game hacking. He's gotten good at it. He can come in. He knows how to get around that stuff just because the generation, your game hacking, as I think we talked about in one of our other podcasts yesterday, is imperative. And it's an easy way for them to get in. So he's been marketed right now for a red team role once he's able to be hired by their HR team. To Don's point, like we got to get in USB said, we got to get our recs where we can bring in an 18-year-old or 19-year-old person who has the skills because they've been doing it for the past 10 years. They just didn't do it in a corporate world. They've been doing it since they were 10.
And they're hungry to learn.
Yes.
It's I mean, I don't want to get way off on a tangent, but you see a lot of people that go out and get their degree and then they come in and they have expectations. Whereas somebody that's 18, 19, their expectation is, I got a job and I want to learn, versus, hey, I got a degree and my expectation is I need 6 figures because I spent 4 years in college. Yeah, but you don't know anything. You don't know anything operational. Like, great, you understand the books and I can probably sit down and you understand what I'm talking about, but you don't know how to do it. All right, we've got one in here from Space Tacos about OT and ICS. This is probably for Don. Is it possible to upgrade systems so that kind of danger is no longer an issue, or are OT and ICS systems trapped in vintage tech? And I'm assuming what she's talking about is what I said before of, hey, if you mess something up, it's going to explode.
Well, yeah. So what they're getting at here is that, there's this information that's being put out to the industry, and that OT systems can't change. And it's true in certain contexts, meaning that most of the time, these things are really expensive. When we purchase these systems and we build them, it's not like a web server and a database on the internet or in the cloud. These are usually physical systems. Sometimes they're virtualized, but at the same time, the hardware that's managing the physical environment, it's really expensive, and it's even more expensive to configure it and run it. So you configure it, you deploy it, and you let it run for as long as you can. Sometimes that can be, and we teach the life cycle is 15 to 30 years. Now, when you talk to people, it might be different depending on the industry and upgrades and stuff like that, but that's how long they expect it to run. A lot of what I was surprised to find out is by the time something is purchased, designed, and deployed, and it goes in production, a lot of times it's 3 years old, because it takes that long to 3 to 5 years old, because it takes that long to deploy it, configure it, and all of that. And when you look at it, everything's end of life. And I used to go in and incorrectly say, hey, all of this stuff is end of life. You need to rip and replace it. And they're like, wait, what? I can do that. I can buy this right now. Give me another, $10 million. And then we'll buy everything now and deploy it in 3 to 5 years, and we'll have the same problem. Or we can run like this. So it is difficult. You have to, and actually, this is why I like ICS and OT. I can't use my normal thought process around securing in reducing risk within an IT environment, I have to use my mind. I have to come up with workarounds and ways to prevent. So when I'm teaching, I talk about prevention. I look at the vulnerabilities. If I know the vulnerabilities, I can set up countermeasures or take other actions to prevent that. If I can't prevent because I can't change the systems, patch, update, I know what the exploits look like online. I can detect. But if I'm detecting these things, I better be ready to respond, because once you start looking, you start finding. So you have to do the response. Okay. And this is all designed because we can't change these environments. They're more difficult to change. Okay. It doesn't mean that we can't, but we're going to get much more influence within these environments if we think about workarounds, if we think about how to use countermeasures to prevent these things. I talked about on LinkedIn yesterday. We need to keep people away from our ICS mediums. Our mediums are copper, wireless, and fiber. Okay. And if you can't touch those physically or digitally, how can you do an exploit? Right. So we need to start thinking about it along those lines. So hopefully that gets a little bit closer to the question.
Yeah, let me add a little more to that, because, again, as I said, I've crossed paths a little bit with Dot on this. When I came out of the utility, like my SCADA systems, my PCLs were something that it was easy to talk about. You go from analog to digital, understanding, to his point, if I can't access it physically or hop onto that frequency, I can't do anything. Let me hold that as there is a caveat. There are certain things, if you can get into it, you can capture the waves if you're close enough and you don't physically have to be in the plant. But on the flip side, you're hardening. You're not actually touching it. You're putting controls around it. They're physical controls most of the time, and then there's some virtual controls that get into place. But that's why there's delayed releases. When you take a transient cyber asset, that's your laptop. When it moves from a corporate network into a controlled environment, it now has to be handled differently. From a security point of view, going back to corporate IT, when it was in that controlled environment, that TCA, I couldn't remote into it legally. When it left that controlled network, I could remote into it with my EDR software. So I had to be aware, before we had an OT SOC, what I could do from a response point of view when that asset was in the controlled space versus in the non-controlled space. Because when it's in that controlled space, to Don's point, it has medium access into those SCADA environments, those ICS environments. When it's not, it's on the corporate network, it does not. So I've been able to put controls in place from a SOC point of view of watching where that asset is physically. Because that's the problem with the utility, is they used a golden image that allowed you to deploy it both on your corporate laptop and your controlled laptop. So when that laptop would move back and forth, I hated transient cyber assets. It was not a fun time until we had a dedicated team who could say, this is my entire job, is to watch this subnet. When you're in this digital footprint, the management plane before you get behind it to those analog systems. So it's a fun field. Anyone who hasn't looked at operational technology, go look at it. It's a field that's not going away. Manufacturing will never go away. Critical infrastructure will never go away. Talking about our TSA earlier, I got to meet the blue shirts because of Colonial Pipeline. They were at my door very quickly wanting to know what we were going to do to protect our natural gas pipelines right after that happened. So
yeah, it's this can become an hour and a half or 2 hour discussion in itself when it gets to this. Like both Don and Fleetus, I was actually in this field before I am where I am now. I actually worked at a plant and did the IT and dabbled in the OT side, and it's a bigger conversation. Space Tacos, when you're talking about, can you upgrade the systems? There are parts of the system you can upgrade, but it's not, like Don said, it's not like, hey, there's a new device out here, we're going to go upgrade it. When you go talk with the people that are actually running and dealing with the OT side, which are a lot of the times the people that are doing that are the scientists and so forth that are in that field, they're not going to go change stuff because they've, like Don said, they've spent the last 3 or 4 years building this set out so they can do stuff, and then they get it to go. They're not going to just go drop systems.
Yeah, and actually that's one of the things that's one of the tough things about this industry, is that a lot of people from the IT side are coming into OT side saying that, hey, I can do these things, and not realizing that just by saying that, I call it building the wall. OT is hyper aware that they can't patch, that they have different operational requirements. So if you're IT and you want to get over in the OT, you need to change your vernacular. You need to change your approach to things, because if you start using and talking the same way you did in IT, they're going to quickly, put you off to the side. Hey, thanks for trying, but we're looking for somebody else. Or we're not going to let you play in our environment. So you do have to understand these things as you're moving in.
And Don can speak to this too. Some of that OT equipment isn't even around anymore. GE or Siemens doesn't produce that equipment anymore. So even if you wanted to replace it, GE and Siemens no longer produce that equipment that's been built on top of. You can't. So when
you ask Siemens for a patch, they're like, "Oh yeah, just buy this new equipment."
Yeah.
Here's the thing that I teach: if you buy a new PLC, you have to buy new management software, which makes new license, right? So now you've doubled and tripled the cost. The management software probably has to run on a newer operating system, a Microsoft operating system, which might require new server hardware. Now, it used to be that server hardware was, $3,000 to $5,000. Now it's $10,000. That's not even the hardened versions of it, which could be $50,000. So just that, hey, let's just replace those PLCs with the brand new version. It has this cascading effect of cost that you don't see in IT.
I mean, yeah, I will segue a little bit. On the IT side, you do see a little bit of this in vulnerability management, and it's typically only with line of business applications that are on super legacy servers, right? You'll see a lot of these companies that have built their line of business application. It is custom, completely in-house code, and it is still running on a Server 2008 instance because the dependencies that it needs aren't in 2016 or 2022 or whatever else server version you want them to go up to. And you can't just ask them to go ahead and, just rebuild their line of business application, because that means they're going to have somebody come out, make a new application, make sure it works, do all the testing. Then you have to have the license for it, and you have to upgrade it and have the hardware or run it in the cloud, whatever you're going to do, right? And so it's all about the compensating controls. It's very similar in that same function.
Compensating controls is a cybersecurity term. If you're looking to an OT term, it's countermeasures.
Countermeasures. Okay.
Yeah, vernacular is important. Common language, like to Don's point, so many times you have to change your vernacular when you walk into a room. And I learned that very quickly when I walked into plants, that the vernacular we use will get you run out of the room because they look at you and they start laughing. And it's like, oh, he doesn't understand me. He doesn't. Yeah. He didn't take the time to learn who the audience was before he walked into this room. So you got to be humble. That's another thing. Just be humble, ask questions, and listen.
Especially if you're new to it. That's just like for anything. Like, be humble and ask the questions and take in the information and learn from it. Don't walk in and be like somebody that's on the IT cyber side and go, "This is what we're going to do," because that, like they say, it doesn't play that way. All right, we got one. Let's see, it's 8:51. We got one, and I think this one goes back to what we were talking about. Is there a single point of failure? It says, "What about the undersea cables to take out the internet?" There's more cables, but now layer 1 is possible. The single point of failure, like the islands, you can have a single point. If you want to call that a single point of failure, that's still not taking down the internet. It's taking down the connection to one side. But usually, if you have undersea cables from the Atlantic going into England, you also have undersea cables coming from mainland Europe into England as well. So there are backups in that sense as well. I don't know if anybody else has
we still have satellites too. So there's still wireless forms of communication, point of sight or line of sight rather. I think the biggest single point of failure, and I kind of was toying around with commenting this earlier, but I didn't know how stupid it would make me seem. But I'm willing to get roasted a little bit. What about electricity? The thing that keeps these things running. If we had an EMP, of course, that's like the nightmare scenario, right? Take out the electricity, take out the internet.
And Don can talk to this too. Most of your OT isn't relying on electricity. It has some stuff, but there's generation. Like they've got diesel ready to go. This stuff isn't going down. This thing runs 24/7, 365, or 730. They have a 2-year redundancy. This equipment isn't going offline. Like they have dual fed electricity coming in. They have diesel backup. Your plant, if it goes down, it's because of a attack, and it could be a natural disaster or an actual attack on the physical attack. That's why we've got countermeasures with DHS, Homeland, and others. They're protecting your critical infrastructure, your water treatment plants, your utilities, your manufacturing. They're protected. They will declare an event, and Don's aware of this too. That's why they run these called GridX, and they're wide events where everyone in the globe or everyone in the U.S. is participating in one big event if something would have to ever come after the U.S. grid. And this is the utility side. I know there's other stuff out there. So yeah, to that point right there, there's redundancy. That's where your DRBCP plans are just as important in an OT ICS environment as they are in your corporate environment.
I think to Joseph's point though, if you had an EMP, that kind of destroys it all type of thing. Unless you've got something, unless you're like your building is surrounded by lead.
Yeah, and we were talking about the internet as in the transfer of data, not so much the industrial control systems.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there. But yeah, the shark attacks of the underwater lines, that's going to be fun to talk about for years. Start your eating my fiber. Great.
And we'll continue to see that somebody dragging something just to break a line. That's just like somebody walking into the server room to pull a cable. You got to go fix it. I think Space Tacos put something in here. Let's see. This one's for Don and Fleetus. Is there an OT ICS dictionary to help with the language barrier? Learning to shift the vernacular from IT to cyber to speak with OT ICS. If not, maybe a video series?
Well,
Don has this. Don can tell you. I've seen some of Don's materials.
So I'm gonna have to do a shameless plug, but so there's two things. You know, first of all, the ISA IEC 62443 volume 1-1 is terms, right? So you can certainly go look at the international standards. International standards are huge in on the OT side. And so I would go look at the 62443 documentation 1.1. Now, SANS, I am a SANS certified SANS instructor. I teach the ICS 410 class. And one of the things that I did is I put out a cheat sheet. So if you go look at the SANS ICS resources, you should find the cheat sheets in there. Of course, we put it behind a paywall. I don't make that choice, right? But there is we did create a kind of a cheat sheet for some of the vernacular. Now, I'd have to go double check. This is before I understood countermeasures versus compensating controls, but yeah, it's a good starting point. So that's out there as well, along with a lot of other ICS cheat sheets that I put out there around protocols and doing security assessments, stuff like that.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I was going to say, just to echo that right there, go ask your engineers. Your engineers will give you their vernacular that they're using. Go mine your business. Sorry, pun intended. Just go ask. They've got documentation. Just read their documentation and then put your stuff on top of it. That's once you read what your customer says. This goes back to, you can tie this back into corporate. Once you know what the line of business application is and how they document it, then you know the vernacular to use. When they say PLC, when they say SCADA, when they say analog, when they say digital, you'll know where it applies in their pipeline, in their software, in their hardware, because they're mainly appliances at the end of the day. Kind of going back to, you can't put an EDR on an appliance. You have to harden it with some other controls.
Awesome.
Yeah, and Fleetus has got a great point there. A lot of consternation between IT and OT when we're talking about, cybersecurity or IT admins moving onto the control network side is not just asking questions. What are we doing here? How is it implemented? Understanding the operational environment. That's the first thing you should do if you're moving in. You shouldn't be thinking cybersecurity. You should be thinking about understanding what you're trying to protect.
Yep. 100%. All right, we're coming to the top of the hour. We are gonna right over to Daniel Lowry and his hour-long, I guess you can call it a jaw-jacking, his stream. Anybody got any last parting words? Don, thanks for hanging out with us and talking some ICS this morning.
No, I mean, my final words are, yeah, we're talking to Gerald about a simply ICS cyber. Myself and Thomas Van Norman are so hopefully that'll be a podcast and not necessarily a live stream, but looking for questions around that we can answer and so forth. So look for that in the future. And thank you for the opportunity.
Man, that'd be awesome. I think there's a lot to go with ICS that people hear about it and want to get into it, but don't understand it. Fleetus, you got anything?
Press on, folks. Press on. That's all I'll say. Don't give up.
Are you doing something later today or no?
Not today. I did my live stream on Wednesday. I moved it to Wednesday nights right now.
And then we got old Cashmere. What do you got for us?
Nothing much. Thank y'all for showing up, Don and Fleetus. It was awesome to hear y'all talk about ICS. Definitely something that's not talked about enough. And I'll catch y'all Monday at 5 p.m. on Learn to Defend Cyber, and then next Friday here.
All right, I am going to drop in the link for Daniel's stream. I'm going to go ahead and put that. You'll see it come under my name in chat. Hopefully, there it goes. For us, that's it for us. It's 8:59, so it looks like Daniel's going to be starting within the next 50 seconds. I said 8:59. I saw somebody jumped on me earlier. Okay, it's 9:59 for the East Coast. But for where time actually begins in Central Time, it's 8:59. So, with that being said, thanks everybody for hanging out with us this morning. This has been the daily Simply Cyber Daily Cyber Threat Brief, and we've been jawjacking. Until then, everybody stay secure, and we will play us out. And everybody go hang out with Daniel, and we'll see you over there.
Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed that content. Keep the cybersecurity train going by connecting with the other Simply Cyber community resources. We have the Discord server that's lively and always keeps the conversation going. You can connect with me directly on LinkedIn. And also every single weekday morning on the Simply Cyber channel, we're doing live daily cyber threat briefings, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, as well as Thursday at 4:30 p.m. We're doing live stream interviews with industry experts, and we produce videos that we push out every Wednesday morning. I'm Jerry from Simply Cyber. I hope you enjoyed the content, and we'll see you in the